What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pick Swap Media YouTube channel. My name is Sean Barnard as usual. We are among the best basketball time of the year. The NCAA tournament is in full swing. The NBA playoff chase is heating up. We are hitting the home stretch of that. And today I am here to talk about Joel Hans Embiid and why he is on a just complete different level this year from years past, and just to appreciate how special this run is. Let's get into it.
Check it out.
Step back, James Harden, right on target. Bang, bang, George Niang to Paul Reed from Tyrese Maxey.
Joel Embiid.
All right, so to kick things off, I just want to give a little context to just how special this season is from Joel Embiid. Looking at his averages on the year, producing 33.5 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 1.7 blocks per game, as well as 1.1 assists per game. And for the advanced statistic, folks, he's also averaging first in player efficiency rating at 31.7. He's overtaken Nikola Jokic in that category. He's also third in win shares at 10.9. Third in box plus minus at 9.1, according to Basketball Reference. He is first, according to ESPN's metrics on that. He is third in VORP at 5.6, third in usage at 37.2. And while I am a team that advanced analytics have become extremely overrated at this point, especially on the defensive end, there is things you just cannot deny from Embiid's game, and these stats do kind of back that up. So while these are for sure not the cure-all and honestly should be overlooked more than the game tape for sure, this is great to still see the recognition showing up in that. He also ranks first in 2-point field goals on the year with 575, which leads the NBA. I just want to take a second to appreciate how impressive that is, considering leading the NBA in scoring at 33.5 points, first in 2 points. Just this all-around terrific scoring, and that's the biggest thing that I want to address today. I know free throws are the biggest critique that gets sent at Embiid, but really the problem there is that Joel Embiid just makes his free throws. Looking at the NBA leaders on the year, Giannis, who's right here in this MVP running with Joel, averaging 12.7 free throws per game, while Embiid's about a full free throw behind him at 11.8 point per game. The difference is Joel knocks his down. And now this last 8 games, it feels like Joel has just turned the page on just a whole nother era of the way that he's played and his ability on the court. Looking at his stats over the last 8 games, which, by the way, these Sixers are 8-0 during the stretch. Embiid averaging 36.3 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 5.0 assists, 2.6 blocks, shooting 62.8% from the field and 47.8% from three. He has really done some special things over this stretch, and it just feels like he has reached the peak of what he can become as a player beyond my greatest belief. And I've kind of hit a point over these past 3 years, these past 3 years exactly, where each year I've kind of reflected on the end and thought like, wow, this might be the peak of Joel Embiid. This might be the greatest basketball season that we ever see from this guy. And then here in lie, he upgrades, he finds a way to get better, and he adds layers to the game and improves it once again. I mean, this guy led the NBA in scoring last year, then went to improve it by a full 2 points, averaging over 33 points per game this year, which is something that no center has done since Shaq. Just impressive stuff. And in this 8-game stretch, by the way, he has not scored less than 30 points since February 23rd. He has not scored less than 20 in a game in the entire year of 2023. December 31st of 2022 was the last game that this season that he has scored less than 20 points. He's also had 2 or more blocks in the last 6 games for the Sixers. And it feels like that area of his game is completely back on the table. Not that he was a negative defender by any means, but there hasn't been necessarily the usual dominance of Joel on the defensive side of the ball for some stretches of the season, but that's absolutely changed. It looks like he has flipped the switch. He's locked in defensively, just blocking anything. And you see it when watching the game. Guys are just afraid to drive inside. They will pull out the paint. His impact goes well beyond the numbers for what he does on the defensive end. And the biggest thing about Joel that differs from just about everybody across the league, and there's very few candidates that kind of fit this category, especially at the center position, is 1 through 5. You're never going to take advantage of them. You can flip on a Nuggets game, watch them run a pick and roll, get a 1-5 switch, and have a point guard with Jokic guarding him, and it's barbecue chicken. He's going right to the rack. That happens every time. Not with Joel Embiid. That is not the case, and he proves that night in and night out, and we're seeing it especially of late. Now, how he just has reached this level and kind of produced this superstar elite scorer that we are seeing on a nightly basis is something that I want to get into. And the biggest thing here is the touches at the elbow in the mid-range. There's been some critiques about this. There's always been the old heads kind of hammering the table, get him in the post, the people complaining about him shooting threes. And over the past 2 years, specifically under Doc Rivers, he has really made this elbow and this mid-range his sweet spot in his game. Looking at the numbers this year, there's 25 players in the NBA that attempt more than 3.3 mid-range shots per game. The mid-range has somewhat become like the superstar shot of the NBA. Like, you're not kind of allowed to take that unless you're an elite level talent and a guy that has earned the right to take that shot. Joel, of course, does, and he knocks them down at the third highest rate of players attempting 3.3 or more per game, and that's 49% from the field overall for Joel. That's Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the only two ahead of him in that category, two of the most elite scorers of all time to fit that role as well. And why the elbow in that mid-range is so special and so important is it's the hardest place on the court to double. We've seen issues with Joel specifically in years past, not as much of late with the team and the way it's constructed, but teams are just willing to sag off guys, throw the double at him before he even touches the ball. If you drop him down on the block, it's incredibly hard to work through that and not allow that to happen. By putting him at the mid-range and putting him with that elbow, you pretty much can't double without full out giving up an open shot to others. And Joel is just capitalizing on it. That little walk-in, that little dribble up, pull up, mid-range shot is just absolute butter. It's automatic at this point, and there's no stopping it for a guy who is real deal 7'2" to be able to walk into a jump shot like that and knock it down. There's simply no guarding it. You can't get up. You can't, especially at his release. He loves to fade away from it. There's just nothing you can do. And when he is knocking him down at this rate, which he has proven to all season, and this has been a growing thing in past years, but it's just really being put on display. There's nothing you can do. That's just an elite shot, and that's kind of becoming the staple of Joel Embiid's play and the staple of the Sixers offense. The Sixers offense, which by the way has climbed up to third in the NBA in offensive efficiency, right behind the Kings and the Nuggets. This stretch of play is special. Joel Embiid has his fingerprints all over that, and it's something that just deserves its appreciation. And while the schematics of it are great, the bottom line is this does not work unless you are the elite offensive weapon that Joel has become. I mean, we're talking about a big man with Hakeem Olajuwon-like footwork and a Kobe Bryant-like shot release. There's nothing you can do that guard it. The footwork and just the elite touch that he displays is the most impressive thing. Think about the evolution of this guy, of coming out of Kansas, coming out of Cameroon, not playing basketball until he was 15 years old, to just have that type of soft touch for a big man, which we just don't see. A 7-footer who his ball just sits on the rim, just goes in. It just like it's tough to put into words, but you just watch it and there's just a give, there's just a touch, and it just sits there in a way that not many NBA players can make happen. And I mean, just look at Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle after last night's game, which, by the way, Joel Embiid finished with 31 points on 15 field goal attempts, shot 10 of 15 from the field. He also added 7 rebounds and 7 assists. James Harden was not there, which I will touch on in a minute, as well as 2 blocks, and the Sixers beat them 141-121. Joel did not have to step on the court for the fourth quarter, which is a statement to the impact that he made, the blowout, the taking care of business that the Sixers put forward, and a huge credit there. And what Rick Carlisle said, a guy who's been around the NBA forever, coached some very talented players, he said, quote, Joel Embiid is probably the MVP with what their team is doing and how he's elevated their game. He's as difficult a guy to game plan for as there is. Giannis is crazy ridiculous. Jokic is the same. And this guy may be even more difficult. So the ultimate props there when you're getting those kind of praise from opposing teammates. And an interesting thing that I thought Joel brought up after the game, which of course he had 7 assists last night. That's up there in one of his most impressive performances of the season. He does have 3 10-plus assist performances, 2 triple-doubles on the season. But what he said is that, quote, I feel like if I wanted to be a playmaker, I could be, but I don't need to because I've got the best playmaker in the league. In the games that he doesn't play, I take on that role, and it's fun. And that was an example of what we saw last night against the Pacers, Embiid taking on more of a playmaker's role. He is, of course, referring to James Harden, who's leading the NBA in assists. The Sixers have the guy leading the NBA in scoring in Joel Embiid and the guy leading the league in assists with James Harden. So impressive stuff there, dynamic offensive weapons. And he's right, because that's not his role. But there still have been strides forward in his processing, his ability to make decisions out of the post. That wasn't quite that way in past years. I mean, we're talking about like teams used to blitz, and that was kind of the only way to shut Joel down is kind of throw the kitchen sink at him. Everybody run over, make it happen, and he would struggle. But you see just a step forward in his maturity and his processing where he sits on the post, he gets that ball and he's just able to look out, mainly out of the elbow at this point, but he's able to just look out, figure out where the weakness is, and attack. And most of the time, the answer to that is him going and scoring in just about every single way possible. There's times where people will critique this, and there'll be like 3 guys thrown at him, and he'll still spin out of a triple team and lay the ball in. And you know what? Maybe that's not the high IQ basketball play, but it counts the exact same, and it scores 2 points, and he gets the job done, which is the bottom line, what matters. So his passing has improved, 4.2 assists per game, which is tied for his career high this year, even with all the scoring, even with taking these strides forward as a passer and a playmaker. And I guess what my whole point in this and why he is such a different beast this year is just he is one of the most dynamic offensive weapons that we've ever seen. We have not seen a guy with this size, with this skill, with this touch, and this ability to just beat teams in every single way. He can bang in the post. He can go head first and drive off the pick and roll in the way that Giannis does when he picks up a full head of steam. He can just shoot over guys in a way that like Kobe Bryant, like one of these superstar guys. And to pair all that with a guy who is among the best defenders in the NBA, if not that, when he is locked in, that's just a special pairing. So Joel is on something this year. He's picked his game up to another level. The Sixers team around him has matched this effort, have grown and have provided areas of the game that he's needed. There are spot up shooters around him. There are these tough nosed defenders, these guys that will jump all over loose balls, lock up their man defensively, can help with the secondary playmaking. They got Tyrese Maxey, James Harden doing their thing on offense as well. So there's a lot to like about this Sixers team. They're peaking at the right time, and it all is all thanks to Joel Embiid. This is all central around him. He is on another tear. The team is matching, and I'm excited to watch how this season finishes. So I appreciate you guys for watching in. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and give Joel Embiid his goddamn respect because he's earned it. Peace.